co-founded the agency against with this one over here, Jenny. We're about almost 2 years old now, so it's been quite the second year of business, as all of you can probably relate. And we're having a hell of a time, though. It's been a lot of fun, and working with some really great people and creating some really amazing work. So that's one part of my life, our life, I guess. And then we also teach at Boise State. To Matt's point, we have something called the Idea Certificate over there, where we teach a lot about creativity. And we'll actually talk about it at the end of our presentation as our final shtick. Yeah, I think that's it. You want to go from here, Jen?
Yeah. So like Brad said, we'll talk a little bit more about Against and the Idea Certificate at the end of the presentation, but we're not going to make you sit through that at the beginning. We thought we would just jump right in. But Brad and I have a long history of working together. Before we started Against, we worked at another agency for about 8 years together, and then decided, like lots of different people, that we thought that there was a better way to do this. And so we decided that we wanted to hang up our own shingle and attempt our better way of doing it. And it has, to Brad's point, been just an incredible experience, and we're loving it. So we're excited to have the opportunity to hang out with you all today and walk you through a presentation that we call Marketing for Rebels. It's a presentation that we were able to give at Boise Startup Week last year. And it seemed to get some good reception, so hopefully we don't disappoint with spending your lunch hour with you today. So you're obviously welcome to take notes throughout the presentation, but just so you know, if you go to this link, you'll have access to the entire presentation that you can download and reference later. So we really believe in the Creative Commons approach of sharing and giving. So we'll bounce this URL up at the very end as well. So if you miss it, we'll get into that. So usually at presentations, you'd have a little bit of a mic drop at the end of the presentation, but we always like to start our presentations with a bit of a mic drop. And this is our mic drop, or this is our bomb drop. And that, I think it's important that we just come right out and say this really clearly as marketers or as advertisers or as business owners. And if we can start from this position and recognize that people hate advertising. Even people who work in advertising hate to be the recipients of advertising. I think we can all accept that as a truth. I think the harder pill to swallow is the second part of this, is that no one cares about your brand. As business owners, we breathe and eat and dream and stay up at night thinking about our brand. It's our baby. It's something that we've created. But consumers, by and large, generally do not care about your brand. And that really is the task of marketing and advertising, is how do you turn that corner? Brad, if you'll go to the next slide. We as a culture, as a humanity, have become really adept at one thing unanimously, and that is avoiding advertising, right? We cannot wait to hit that little skip ad button on our YouTube videos. And I don't know about you all, but I've been spending a lot more time reading news articles. And I am so annoyed with the bombardment of advertising and all the little pop-ups. And I feel like media channels have tried to figure out a way to just completely interrupt whatever it is that you're doing. And they're doing it so brilliantly, but it's incredibly annoying. And so that might leave you asking, okay, well, what do we do from here? Because as a company, you all have customers. And I'm kind of making a general assumption here that we're talking to people who own their own companies or who's starting their own companies. And we have to have customers, right? We need people to buy our things. Otherwise, it's not really a company, it's a nonprofit. But we want to turn the table a little bit, and we want to try and shift from just having customers to having an audience. There's a difference in a mindset between having customers and having an audience. When you have an audience, your audience they're literally in the grandstands, waiting, watching everything that you're doing. They're cheering you on. They're waiting for your next album. They're waiting for the next release. And so how do we do this? How do we transition customers into having an audience mindset, especially when we are seeing 10,000 ads a day, literally? When we're driving down the roads, we're seeing billboards. As we're reading news articles, we're being bombarded. As we're flipping through Instagram in the middle of the day, we are exposed to, on average, 10,000 ads a day, which is crazy. And so of all of those ads that are delivered, keep this in mind, okay? Of those that are delivered, this is what we notice. Of the ones that we notice, maybe this is what we remember. And of the ads that we remember, this is the number that we act on. It is tiny. If you think about yourselves, when was the last time that an ad actually motivated you to do something, to purchase something? It has happened. We all succumb to making a purchase from an ad. But it is rare that that funnel gets us to being exposed to an ad, to making a decision and making a purchase. And one of the culprits is that everything we see is the same over and over again. Everything that we're exposed to in advertising is the same. We say that every industry has a playbook, and here's just a couple slides with some examples. Banking has a playbook. I don't know why it is that banks think that the sexiest thing they have to advertise is an image of their credit card, but this is how banks advertise, okay? Insurance, hands. If you don't put hands in your insurance ad, you're not an insurance company, okay? This is what and it doesn't matter what category of insurance, we need to see hands, okay? So everybody's doing this. Doctors, or hospitals, healthcare, every healthcare industry category company, they market themselves the same way. And this is problematic because you cannot tell the difference between these. None of these are breaking through. They're not making an impact and they're not distinctive. Now, you add on top of that, that a large percentage of the population, I would actually make the argument, this number is probably higher now, they use ad blockers. Again, we've become really adept as a culture at ignoring advertising. It does not get through. It's one of the things that is, we've just become really fight or flight, right? It's something that we've adapted to. And so this might leave you scratching your heads. Okay, well, that's awesome. I just signed up for a presentation about rebel marketing and I'm just being told how marketing and advertising doesn't work. And it does, but there's a recipe or an approach or a mindset. And that is what we want to spend most of this presentation and our time together talking about. And we think and talk a lot about that these are the elements that are necessary to creating amazing breakthrough advertising, and that it needs to be relevant, it needs to be stirring, and it needs to be brave. Now, for some of you, this might feel like a little bit of a duh, but it's easy to say, oh yeah, I get that, I totally agree. It's much harder to actually execute. Brad and I, when we're working at the office, we are regularly bouncing our work up against this and saying, okay, well, yeah, it's relevant, it's not stirring, or it's not brave. This is much harder to actually execute. And it's a moving target, right? Something that was stirring and brave last year might not necessarily be stirring and brave this year. So it's an ever evolving approach. So let's walk through a little bit of what we mean by each of these different categories. So relevant is literally just showing up at the table, being a part of the conversation, not living underneath a rock, knowing what's going on culturally or in your category. Relevant could change based off of the industry that you're in, but relevant is always influenced by the larger culture, right? And right now there's a lot of stuff happening for us to try and leverage or associate ourselves with to be relevant. I think one of the best ways to explain this is to actually share an example with you. And this example is a little bit old now. I think this ad was done in 2018, but Gillette, their sales were in decline. They were struggling to stay relevant because of a lot of the disruptors like Dollar Shave Club and other companies that were coming into this space. This also happened right around the time of the Me Too movement. And so culturally, there was something really big happening in society. And so Gillette decided to join the conversation, okay? So let's watch it and then I have some more commentary on this.
Bullying. The Me Too movement against sexual harassment. Masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it? We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy?
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment
but she says you don't tell me.
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Well, sweetie, come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Not cool, not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men.
and small.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
Somehow we treat each other away.
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
So what's really interesting about this ad, aside from whether the actual execution of it or not, is that they decided to show up to that conversation, and they didn't need to be a part of that conversation. They could have easily not done anything, not shown up, and no one would have noticed. But the fact that they did show up and were a part of that conversation, everyone noticed. There was a ton of conversation and actually a lot of debate about that ad, and it didn't appeal to everyone. In fact, they got a lot of backlash from that ad, and that's okay. You're not going to appeal to everyone, and you shouldn't appeal to everyone. The more that you can understand who your specific target audience is and narrow and focus, the better. I think, Brad, if you'll go to the next slide. If you think about it this way, there are about 7.7 billion human beings on the planet, and you really only need to appeal to a fraction of those to run a really, truly successful business. And why it matters that you have a message that relates and connects to them is because, again, we're trying to make that transition from them just being customers to them being your audience, to them being true fans. We often see a target audience that looks something like this, a demographic. We have a product that we are trying to appeal to women between the ages of 18 and 80 in the US. And I don't know about you, but I can't think of a single thing that women between the ages of 18 and 80 in the entire US have in common. There isn't anything, okay? So when you are writing a psychographic or when you're writing a target audience brief, you wanna make it look something more like this. Intermittent slide. You want to appeal more to the mindset. It's not necessarily just the demographics, right? We see demographics all the time. So it's this gender, it's this age group, it's this economic level, but instead you want to appeal to a mindset, because if you're appealing to a mindset, that's going to cross demographic segmentation. And so instead, think about marketing to someone like this. If you're targeting moms who live within easy access to outdoor recreation, who prefer experiences over things, now you've painted a picture. You know this person. This person might be your neighbor. It might be someone that you're related to. You know this person. And once you know someone, you're much more capable of marketing and targeting them with both advertising and the channels. I think you could summarize an entire degree in marketing by this single slide, that if you can deliver the right message to the right person at the right time, you have done your job. Now, of course, the devil is in the details and how you actually execute this, but this really is the recipe. Okay, let's talk about, let's jump into stirring, because like I mentioned earlier, I think stirring and brave become a little bit more challenging to do. So what's interesting about stirring is something actually physiological that you can feel. I don't know how many of you have created something, or you've had a little bit of an aha moment or a breakthrough, and you literally feel it in your gut, right? And it starts to raise, like your temperature might even rise, and you can start to feel something, like you're stirred to feel. And what's interesting about stirring is not only as the creator do you feel that, but you also want your receiver, the people on the receiving end of that message, to also be stirred. You want to stir some sort of an emotion with them. You want to stir happiness, joy, sadness, some sort of an emotion. I think one of the best examples of this is Procter & Gamble's ad that they did for the Olympics. And they've been doing this now for a couple of years because they realized how well it worked. But this is the original spot that they created. So let's watch it, and then I have some commentary after.
Busy fellow.
P&G, proud sponsor of moms.
So what makes this ad so incredible? One, sorry, it's always risky to try and play an ad during a Zoom conference because it lags so much, and sometimes the emotion is gets a little bit lost. But when this ad first aired, I would venture to guess that there was not a dry parent eye, especially moms, anywhere who watched that ad, because it tapped into this insight that as parents and as moms specifically, you give up everything for a child, regardless of whether or not they're on the track to becoming an Olympic athlete. And it was, they didn't go out and run an ad that said, look at our Tide Pods, how wonderful they work. They get stains out so well. They have those ads and they do that advertising. But they wanted to connect the unique human insight that related their product to the target audience. Now, their main consumer is moms. So they knew that they needed to talk to moms. What's interesting is in talking with the individuals who created this spot, and they had a lot of back and forth with the agency about wanting to change it to parents rather than just moms. The hardest job on the planet is being a parent. And there was a lot of debate about that particular nuance. And there's a lot of actual emotional distinction between the difference of calling, having the ad focused on being parents rather than being just a mom. And they went back to your main target are moms. Even though that you can relate this back to parents, and yes, dudes are out there buying Tide Pods, it is largely the mother of a household who is the primary shopper, especially of Procter & Gamble. So now, to get to a human insight, there is a lot of work involved in that. And a lot of it is really just asking a lot of good questions and familiarizing yourself with the landscape, if you will, or the context that you're marketing and advertising in. And we call that solving for X. And we think that we know that a human insight lies somewhere in here, that you need to understand who your consumer is, what keeps them up at night, what are their worries, what are their fears, what are their hopes, what are their dreams. Again, this goes back to the mindset. Then you have to understand, okay, the company, what is true for us? What is our genuine value proposition? What do we do better than anyone else? What do we suck at? And being really honest about those things and understanding as a company, creating your sandbox and understanding what you are and what you're not really. And then the category. Every industry has its own category, and the category might be a rising category, or it might be a declining category overall. What's going on in the category? Are there new innovations that are happening? So understanding that landscape is important to understand as well. And then, of course, you can't ignore culture. And I think if I were to circle culture, I think that is one of the elements that a lot of people ignore. And it's hard to ignore right now because we're in the middle of a lot of heavy things that are happening. But as marketers and as business owners, as consumers, we exist and live in our day-to-day within the culture. And the culture has significant impacts, which I think we're seeing very clearly right now. I'll have you jump ahead. So when you're looking for an insight, you don't want to look for the murder weapon. What you're looking for is the motive. And the motive, if you want to read that differently, it's just that underlying human motivation. Like, what is the human emotion that motivates someone to act within your category? Okay, the last element of this relevant, stirring, and brave is brave. And I think brave of all of them is probably the hardest because it takes the most guts to pull the trigger on doing something brave. But brave is probably one of the most important of that recipe to get noticed, right? Again, let's go back to the very beginning. People see 10,000 ads a day and they make movement on less than 0.01% of those. So you want to be in that 0.01%, and to do that, you have to break through. So I love this example because it's from Kraft. And if anyone were to say that Kraft was going to come out with one of the most disruptive ads at the time that this ad came out, I would have laughed. Because of, if you think about Kraft, you have a very specific mindset about what this company is. But they created this ad for Mother's Day, and they didn't come out with a sappy, we love moms ad, because, well, for one, Procter & Gamble did that, and you can't top what they did. So they took a different angle to this, and they decided to take a different approach. I don't know how many of you have seen this. If you haven't, hopefully it's not too glitchy because this is a good one.
Mother's Day, everybody. I'm Melissa Moore, author of Holy A Brief History of Swearing. A recent study by Kraft Mac and Cheese revealed that 74% of moms say they've sworn in front of their kids. If you're one of the 26% who say they've never sworn in front of their kids, you're full of Anyway, I'm here to show you how to avoid some of these not so perfect parenting situations. For example, when your kids are running around like caffeinated gorillas when you're trying to make a web video, you might say, "What the frog? You're acting like flipping goof nuggets. Take that horse hockey outside." Instead of, "Calm the down and get your little outside." Or you can say, "Get off your monkey flunking tablet and get your shit talking mushrooms ready for soccer practice." And you really want to say, "Move your get together for soccer. You're gonna miss out." I meant, son of a motherless goat. No parent is perfect, but sometimes you can do better. That's why I'm here. Other times you can't, and that's why there's Kraft Mac and Cheese. Sugar, I said sugar. Sometimes we just have to swear, and that's okay. Nobody's perfect. You're a mom. And it's Mother's Day. I'm Melissa Moore, and here's to swearing like a mother. Oh, poot, I almost forgot. For a special Mother's Day gift, go to swearlikeamother.com.
You can imagine that this made quite the impact. And what's my favorite line in there is, sometimes you're a great parent, and that's why I'm here, and sometimes you're not, and that's why Kraft Mac and Cheese is here. I think they leaned fully into the fact that when you've given Kraft Mac and Cheese to your children, that it's probably because you're compromising a little bit as a parent. You're not giving them that beautiful homemade meal, and that's okay. So Lee Clow, who is a pioneer, I guess, or in the advertising industry, or grandfather in the advertising industry, if you want to call that, he said this, that you don't want to do the right thing, you want to do the brave thing. And as owners of companies and as marketers, we are very tempted to do the right thing because the right thing feels really comfortable. It doesn't make anyone else uncomfortable. And oftentimes we arrive at doing the right thing or the safe thing. It's also often called the safe thing because we end up making a lot of decisions by committee. And this is how this goes down. You're having a meeting with your partners or your board or some other collaborator, and people will say, and these are direct quotes that we've heard when we've been pitching ideas. So you might hear something like this. The way that we've always done it is just perfectly fine. We've been really successful doing it this way. There's no reason to change. Let's just keep doing it the way that we've always done it. We hear this all the time. We also hear this, that you're pushing it too far. Some people aren't going to get it. It's way, way too clever. Let's just be really direct and tell them exactly why they should care about our company and about our product. Or the worst is this person who just says, well, I agree with whatever Susan said. Can someone just pass me the donuts? Like, they're not actually invested. They don't care. They're just going to agree with what everybody else is agreeing with. So I think one of the biggest killers of creativity really is consensus. You want a little bit of tension. And in fact, debate is one of the best things for both creativity and innovation. If there is not debate and tension, you probably haven't pushed hard enough, and you haven't gotten to something that's going to make people pay attention, right? To get to something brave, you have to be disruptive. You have to poke the bear a little bit. If we were, as a group of people who are all on this call, to try and collectively say, okay, we're going to order ice cream for everyone, but we need to debate, and we all have to agree on one flavor of ice cream because we're only buying one flavor for everybody. What do you think the flavor that everyone's going to agree upon? It's vanilla. Okay, 100% of the time, a large group of people are only ever going to be able to agree on the least common denominator. And while the least common denominator or the safe choice might be okay for ice cream, it is not okay in marketing and advertising if you want to make an impact and you want to make a difference. Okay, so that's my spiel for relevant, stirring, and brave. And I'm sure there are some financially minded people on this call who are saying, okay, awesome, but I really, I'm in it for the money, show me the money. And so I have some stats for you. There was a study that was done that took a look at the most highly awarded companies, or the most highly creatively awarded companies. So these were the companies that literally their advertising won the top creative awards. And they looked at their revenue and their sales and their company earnings compared to their direct competitors who existed in this space, but who were not highly awarded in the creative space. And these were what some of those results looked like. And these, I would make the argument that you all would be very pleased to see these numbers returned back to you. And so this genuinely is this is a business case for creativity. And why, if you are a creative company, both in your business practices, but also in your marketing and your advertising, you are going to see a direct impact on your bottom line. There's another study, and this is from Millward Brown, and it talks about the percentage of your brand that relates back to your market value. So in today's world where, we're sometimes selling intangibles, or even that the whole brand itself is considered an intangible, right? So, and if you look at the bottom lines of companies, 74% of the S&P 500, the value of their company comes from intangibles. And then of those intangibles, 20% makes up their market value. That's substantial. That's pretty crazy. So I'll leave you with this slide, and then I'll kick it over to Brad. This to us is the secret sauce. We're giving you the recipe that if you can ask yourselves when you are making decisions about your marketing and your advertising, just ask yourself, is it relevant? Is it stirring? And is it brave? And if the answer to that question is no, then go back and do a little bit more work. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the results, and you'll be a better company and a better marketer for it.
So we've spent some time talking about methodology to this point, and we want to leave you with some things that you can take away right away. So we've got some free tools that we want to go through with you. It'll help you with some of your upcoming efforts. The first one's called the Channel Guide. It's a printable guide that allows you to understand all of the various marketing channels and ways to reach people, and then the best ways to use them. So you can access this at goagainst.com/channel guide, but it looks like this, and it's a lot to look at on a slide, so I'll break it down for you. Down here at the bottom, we have our marketing funnel: awareness, engagement, conversion, and loyalty and advocacy. So channels that are great at generating awareness, like getting a lot of eyeballs on your brand. Channels that are great for engagement, where you really need to engage with somebody at a deeper level. Maybe there's some education that goes with your product. Conversion, whether that's making the actual sale, or maybe it's just collecting an email address or a phone number to start, then generating some loyalty from people, and then actually having them turn into advocates where they're talking about your brand to others. Over here on the left, this is every single channel that we can possibly think of that you can use to reach people. Everything from network TV down to Bing ads to SEO to direct mail to your actual brick and mortar location. This is every single channel that we can think of to reach your customer with. Over here on the right, you'll see a couple of dollar signs, $3 signs, $2 signs, $1 sign. If you've ever used Yelp or Urban Spoon to pick a restaurant, this is just kind of, it gives you a gut check on, are these an expensive channel, or is this a pretty cheap channel to afford? And these are general terms. It kind of depends on a lot of factors, but it's just a good guide to understand what's expensive and what's cheaper. And then when you blow it out all in the center, you can see where these channels fall. Network TV, cable TV, digital TV, those are really great awareness channels. So you can use these bricks in the center to kind of line up your channels to the funnel. Really amazing when you're starting to, when you're asking the question, how do we reach people? Or what are we going to do with our upcoming campaign? This is a great place to start when you're thinking about channels. Next up, this tool is called the Hack Pack. It's available at goagainst.com/hackpack, and it's 200 tools, most of which are free to use. And this is just stuff that our agency has collected over the years, and things that we use constantly when we're building campaigns, and made them available to you all. So there's 16 quote packs. Think of these as categories within the Hack Pack. This thing covers strategy tools, design tools, UI, UX, development, content, PR, photo, video, media, email, search engine marketing, e-commerce, sales, analytics management, learning tools where you can just continue your education, and then general utility tools that help you run your business. It covers a lot of ground. You can get lost in here for days if you access it, but we thought we'd point out some of our favorites. The first one, this one's becoming ever more popular. I feel like everyone's starting to use this, or at least dabble with it. Canva, think of it as baby Photoshop. It's a really great way for non-designers to get in and start with some basic designs. DJI Osmo Mobile 3 Gimbal. This is a great tool that you can plug your phone into, and it gives you those really steady, smooth shots when you're recording video. So many of us on this call are starting to turn into ad hoc videographers, because that's just what the day's calling for. This is a really great way to get you some better looking footage. Buffer, really amazing social media management tool, allows you to connect all of your social media channels. That way you can post and schedule and analyze all of your social media behavior from one tool. Facebook Audience Insights. This is a great way to get some demographic and some mindset data out of Facebook. You can look at your own page and see the average demographics for your page, but you can even look into interests. And then even one more step, you can actually upload your email or customer list into Facebook Audience Insights, and it'll tell you the demographics of that customer list. So it's a really great way to help you understand your customer or your audience data a little bit better. Google AdWords Express. So when you're running Google search ads, it can be a complicated process if you've never run pay-per-click ads before. Google AdWords Express, I think they've actually changed the name. They've simplified it to Google Ads, and they've kind of made it a part of their core product. But once you get in, it uses a little bit of AI and some intelligence to get in there and start to create those audiences for you. So you give it a little bit of information, and it gets your ads up and running in a much more simple process than the full suite of Google ad tools. Next up is Google Data Studio. We've all done it. We all have to prepare reports and report on activity, whether it's from a marketing campaign or maybe it's just behavior or incoming customers to the store. Google Data Studio is an amazing place where you can connect in all of your inputs: Excel, Google Sheets, WordPress, Facebook, HubSpot, whatever you're using, and you can create these really great charts on the fly. Unsplash, we've all had to use stock photography before. A lot of it is crap out there, as you all know. Unsplash does a pretty good job of finding some really great looking stock photography, and that's all free to use. Postable, this one's a wild card. This one's a fun one. If you're in a sales business or you have clients, or maybe you just want to send a really personal note to a customer, sometimes getting something in the mail is really exciting. And so Postable, you can actually go pick out your card, type in your message, it converts it into handwriting, so it looks like it's a handwritten note. You can include things with your note and then mail it all from your computer. So you just pick your card, write your note, mail it, and it gets sent off. So it's a really great personal touch point. SimilarWeb, this is a great way to go and do some competitive analysis. So you can go to SimilarWeb, you plug in your competitor's URL, and it'll actually go and scrape and give you a really great baseline of what's going on their website. So it's not as good as getting their Google Analytics data, but it's a really good view into some of the things and some of the successes your competitors might be having on their site. Descript, if you've ever gotten a wild hair and wanted to create a podcast, this is a really great tool to do that. As you're recording, it'll start to build out your script. So as you're recording, you can kind of see it in the screenshot here. As you're recording, it'll build out your script in real time. And then if you want to delete out words, you just delete it in the script, and then it'll automatically snip it out of your audio and clean up your audio for you. It'll even go one step further. And let's say you forget to say a word, you can actually type in the word, and it'll use some AI and natural language processing to recreate your voice and add that word in so that you don't have to re-record that entire thing. Super rad tool. They have a pretty good free trial available, and even the paid version's pretty affordable. Noam. So Noam, if you're creating a company, or maybe it's a new product line and you want to search for that name to see if all of the social handles are available, if all the domains are available, if the trademark's available, that's extensive if you're doing it one by one by one. Go to noam.com, plug it in, it'll do it all for you. Hunter, if you want to find some email addresses as a specific company, let's say you're a B2B business or you're targeting a certain company, go to Hunter and you can plug in their domain. It'll scrape the web for all of their email addresses. And if they can't find that email address, they'll look for patterns and give you a pretty good guess of what it could be. They also have a really great Chrome extension. So if you're on someone's LinkedIn profile, you can hit that Chrome extension and it'll find their email address for you. So it's a great way to find email addresses for some potential leads. Almost done here. Answer the Public. You go to Answer the Public and you type in something that you want more information about. Something, maybe it's one of your products. Maybe you're curious to see what customers are searching for around your product or maybe your industry. And Answer the Public will actually go through and scrape all of the Google autocompletes, which end up being the most popular questions for that given search term. And it'll produce these really amazing charts and informational digests so that you can get all of the most popular questions for your product or industry. And then even one more pro tip, if you take those questions and start to write a blog post, or you can create your social media calendar around this, you're literally answering the questions that are most prominent, and it'll boost your SEO score. We went through a lot. All of these slides, as a reminder, are available at goagainst.com/trailhead. And since we gave you some free stuff, we get to talk about ourselves. That's how this works. We're Brad and Jenny. We started an agency called Against. We'd love if you checked us out at goagainst.com. Here is some of our work, just in a quick smattering of some of the amazing people that we get to work with every single day. We do have an internship available. It is currently on pause for this year, given the circumstances, but we're looking for ways to get that back up and running, and most definitely, hopefully it's up and running by next year at the very latest. You can learn more about that at goagainst.com/intern. And then, like we started the call, we spend some of our time at Boise State, where we founded a certificate called the Idea Certificate, which is a certificate of innovation and design. It's 4 courses: creative concepting, growth hacking, analytics for design, and emerging technology are the 4 courses. And it's a lot of fun. And we teach creativity. And of course, if you have any questions or feedback, we would love to hear from you. Here's our email address that goes to Jenny and I. So feel free to shoot us a note if you have anything. And I think we've got about 16 minutes for some questions. So if anyone has any questions, we'd love to hear them. And we have a bias towards people turning on their cameras and asking us versus dropping them in the chat. So please ask if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Oh, I have a question.
Go for it.
Sorry. You went through the list of things like the Descript and Noam, Hunter, Answer the Public. Would you be, or did I miss this maybe, willing to share that list again?
Yes, it's so the slides, there's 2 ways to get it. All of these slides are available at that URL. It'll take you right to the slides if you type that in.
Okay.
And then the actual tool where all of this stuff lives, That tool is called the Hack Pack.
Okay.
So .com/hackpack, it'll take you straight there.
Okay. And why aren't you charging for these things? These are awesome.
Because what goes around comes around, right? It's
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do, and we find these from other people that have shared this with us, and so we put a good list together and would love to
Yeah.
share.
And it really speaks volumes to them as individuals and the work that they've done. I briefly introduced them, but I can't say enough their willingness to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem and really just put themselves out there in a very authentic way. So I really appreciate that. And Brooke, one other note, I will be emailing everyone that registered. There was quite a few that registered that couldn't attend. And so I'll be sending out a recording of this
Okay.
of this Zoom meeting, as well as those links. So you should have all of that today or tomorrow.
Badass.
Cool.
I might have a question. Hey there, my name's Michael Cullen. I work at One Stone, tuition-free charter school in Boise, and I know y'all have been involved in one way or another.
Can my kids go there? Just kidding.
So, yeah, applications will be live probably around May of next year. We just we're
Okay, but I meant like Monday.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not the gatekeeper there, but
Okay.
Sounds like a yes, Brooke.
I wanted to hear your thoughts. What can we encourage students to learn, explore in the remote options if they're curious in design and marketing? What are some either like digital certificates similar to what y'all have created at Boise State that are like accessible, or just maybe even like laser focused, talking about they know they're interested in marketing design, and what are some routes that we can encourage folks to like just get certified or build a skill set that could be marketable, next year or tomorrow?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Maybe I'll start, Jen. And yeah, it's so tough. I think what's really amazing about the time that we're in is that they're going to remember this for the rest of their life. And at this point, it's an opportunity for us to get really creative. I think it was, there's a really great, I'm going to butcher this. I think it's Galileo that said this, but you can't teach a person anything. You can only inspire them to learn something. And I honestly think opening it up to the students and asking what they're interested in learning about, and then having them go through that discovery process themselves. There's literally thousands and thousands of ways to learn things online. I mean, we could give you a handful of tools. We have those, that list if you'd like them. But having them go through that process of self-discovery and understanding what they're interested in, have them find it, they're going to be so much more bought in than getting the big long laundry list of available videos and things to watch. But if you are looking for some recommendations, the Hack Pack, if you go to against.com/hackpack, you can filter by learn, and it'll have some really great learning tools in there for creativity. And then if you have any students that are interested in doing the idea certificate or getting any of that content, we're happy to share some of that stuff with you as well.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add to that, and I think the self-discovery part and taking ownership of that and having just a tremendous sense of curiosity is such a great pathway to take. But sometimes that can be really challenging, right? It's like we ask, especially because One Stone is focused on high school students, we often ask high school students, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, no, that's a horrible question to ask. Nobody knows what they want to be when they grow up. It's too who knows what the possibilities are going to be. So instead, if we can reverse engineer that a little bit and say, what do you want your life to be like? And then have them start to envision and kind of put that together, then we can do a little bit of reverse engineering. And so sometimes you want to have them start at the end and then back up to figuring out how they want to learn some of those things.
Yep.
Hello.
What's up, Jeff?
Well, thank you so much. I love the work out of College of Innovation and Design. And have y'all had input into the gap year stuff, or is that something that's a little bit outside of your viewpoint at Boise State?
Small world. We're actually working on the marketing campaign.
Nice. I think that's really one of my goals has always been I would love to build a program at One Stone that makes it so you can like plan your dream gap year, and as just kind of a fun 1 week exercise just because I think so many people, they treasure or they look forward to like the freedom, but then once they get it, they're almost just as likely to stay in Boise as they are to, go out to uh, backpack South America or whatever they might wish they were doing.
Yeah, let's collaborate on that. That'd be fun. There's a ton of really exciting things going on with a lot of organizations, and we're involved in a couple of them right now. So we might be able to connect you and make something big happen. It'd be cool.
And just another note, Michael's actually helping chair the youth track this year at Boise Startup Week. So a lot of exciting stuff happening there.
Very cool.
I have a quick question.
Oh.
I'm Ryan Gray, co-founder at SGW Design Works here in Boise. And I'm curious what you guys are advising your clients about messaging specific to COVID. Are you having folks focus on this, or is everybody kind of getting tired of hearing about it, even though we're all living with it every day?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of the universal response is it depends. We say that a lot as teachers, and it's the most frustrating response ever. It depends on the category that they're in. I think obviously being in a healthcare industry or someone who works in that, the communication needs to be much more frequent and a lot more to the point. But I think, like, for example, one of our clients, Killer Creamery, they do ice cream. And so we've had some fun with, commentary, right? That's part of that relevant part. So, we say, when I can't remember some of our headlines that we've used, but we directly point at the situation that people are living with day to day. So I think depending upon the category and the industry you're in, we're talking to them about having fun with it. I think, you obviously want to be cautious depending upon the industry. Sometimes if you have fun with it and are a little bit too playful, it can sound insensitive. But I think it just really depends on the client.
We also have a healthcare client where communication's critical. They're a clinic here with 4 locations, and they're actually providing some relief to the emergency rooms by having patients come direct. And so being very, very consistent in your messaging and making people feel incredibly safe and understanding the procedures. It just kind of depends on the industry and business. But we've taken a humorous approach with one client and a pretty serious approach with the other. It just kind of depends.
Okay.
But yes, stay consistent, stay authentic. People may be tired of it, and you definitely don't want to be doom and gloom every single day. But I think being authentic and just trying to do your best and communicate in a really authentic way with customers is probably the one single thread that we can always recommend.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah. First, thanks for inviting me to the Black T-shirt Club this morning. I was curious, if you guys have any advice for people who have a rebel mindset, but are perhaps working in a place that is a little less, I guess it's less natural for them to take that approach, and just how you have been successful in working with some of those larger traditional brands or industries like, I don't know, banking or something that you wouldn't expect to take on that type of voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think a lot of it comes down to just really trying to align a mindset and having that conversation with the individuals that are the key stakeholders and are the decision makers, and really try and help educate them about how oftentimes the riskiest thing to do is to do the safe thing, because you're spending a ton of money on marketing and advertising dollars, and it is quite possible that they're literally not being seen by anyone. And also helping to remind them that we're never our audience as business owners, or as, even if we technically fit within our own target audience, we're not our audience. We're too close to it. We know too much information. And so always approaching it from the standpoint of who is your target audience? What do they care about? And helping them understand that that's the lens you want to be looking at it through. So it's 2-part. I would say be really clear on who it is that you're marketing to and what their hopes, dreams, fears, worries, joys are. And then make that really clear and present, that you're always going back to that. Give that person a name, give them a persona, and say, okay, but this person won't care about that, or they will care about this. And then go through the process of, you have to break through. It makes no sense to do marketing and advertising at all if no one is seeing your message. And the really important way to break through is to do something that is relevant, stirring, and brave, that might feel risky. But like I said at the beginning, the riskiest thing to do is to do the safe thing, because nobody's going to see it. No one will pay attention to it. It just falls into the mix of all the other ads that we see every single day. Brad, you always have some wise words to share on this matter.
That's not true, but I'll try to say something. I honestly, I think that the stereotype of a rebellious attitude comes with the lone gun going off and trying to do it themselves, and kind of negative towards everybody else and the status quo that's going on. I've found way more success being overly positive and inviting people in, and constantly, like, you're the one, honestly, you're the one that has to throw the ideas up and stay positive and invite as many people in to be a part of that rebellion as possible. And you will be the one that gets said no to the most. That's the burden you bear. But it's that positivity that cuts through, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be a little bit of a rebel. And inviting people in and helping them understand it, and being really positive with, it's okay to screw it up. It's okay to take this leap. It's okay. And you'll find a little bit more success, especially in a bigger company.
I have one more thing to add, and with all else fails, sometimes A/B test it. Say, okay, let's run my ad, and then let's run your ad, and let's see which one has more success. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's a good trial.
Cool, thank you.
I might have one last question if there's not another one. What's one thing you've learned from your students in the last 12 months that you were blown away by? Any insight or technology or mindset? And you don't have to say last 12 months. But as instructors at Boise State, is there anything you've learned from students where you're like, whoa?
Oh, yeah, daily. I think that's one of the reasons why we love teaching so much, is that we get exposed and inspired to so many creative and inspiring minds. I think one thing, I'll let Brad have some really good actual specific stories, so I want him to be able to tell some of those stories. But I think, just, you can never make an assumption. And one of the interesting things about the classes that we teach are they're open to people across the university. So they're not college specific. So we'll have engineering students, design students, marketing students, biochemistry, psychology students, all in the same class, from across, all the way from freshmen all the way to graduate students. And it always blows me away at the interesting and incredible ideas and things that they come up with. I know one school is based off of a design thinking methodology, and a lot of the classes that we teach are as well. And so we really value collaboration and prototype and iteration. And we're just always blown away by the incredible ideas. And they're even collaborating from students across the world. So we teach our classes online, and oftentimes we'll have international students who are joining our class as well. And yeah, just really the ingenuity and creativity always blows me away. Brad, do you want to tell your story about the woman who created the voice assistant?
Oh yeah.
I like that one, or you can tell a different one, but you just have some good stories.
That one's a good one. So as a part of our emerging technology course, we teach a new piece of tech every single week. We teach drones, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, etc. So in the Internet of Things week, and when we were talking about artificial intelligence, students were tasked with building some sort of automation that connected devices together. And then we have students reflect on the experience. This one student in particular, it was just amazing that she was willing to share it with us. But she built this automation, and she dealt with really, really deep anxiety, really, really troubling anxiety, to the point where when it started to become overwhelming, she would go into her room, turn off all the lights, and she just had to be away from everybody. So she built this automation for people with anxiety, and she would literally go into her room, and then she would say, "Hey Alexa, I'm feeling anxious." And then it would automatically post to the anxiety subreddit, which is a community of people that go through this kind of thing. And then it would post something from her, and then this entire community would come and rally and give her advice and ways of dealing with it, and just this sense of community around the same thing. And she just talked us through this amazing creation. I think that on top of that, just that the thing that I've noticed, and it's been so humbling, is throughout the generations, we've had changes in communication. And you go all the way back of writing really formal letters and sitting at your desk and writing a letter out in court with your correspondence, to talking on the phone, to sending emails, to including to including emojis and exclamation points in your email, to text messaging. And I think that, especially now that we're getting Gen Z coming through and even into school, college, the communication path is so different. Texting and like the way that they like look at you, and a lot of times, I'm stereotyping a little bit, but a lot of times they're not even looking, or they're too shy, or they just have a completely different way of communicating. And then you top that with nothing but AirPods and athleisure. It looks like they don't care, but it's just it is so amazing. They're such bright, caring people, and if we just seek to understand, they're just communicating in different ways, and they have so many amazing things to share and offer. And it's been very, very humbling to be able to teach them.
Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate you guys taking your time to really kind of share this impactful information. I can, speak for myself that I definitely learned a lot through this talk today, and I appreciate everyone who joined in and the questions. Our next Lunch and Learn is going to be on September 9th. So mark your calendars for that, and I'll be sending out information on that in the follow-up email. We also have Boise Startup Week coming up the end of October, the week of October 26th. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or I appreciate both of you being so accessible. Any last comments, or any last questions before we end today's Lunch and Learn?
Thanks for having us. You've been a blast. Really, really appreciate you having us.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. It was really great.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, or download the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.